Hi everybody! Today's craft project, I'm going to teach you how to make a decoupage cuff. So first thing we're going to need is an aluminum cuff. You can buy these pretty much at any craft store. Artbeads.com. They also have a good selection. This one is 2 inches, so you can see it goes nicely on my wrist. So we're going to need a cuff. We're going to need scrapbooking paper, which you're going to put onto the cuff. I have chosen these two for my selection, a nice paisley one, and then paisley's going to go on the outside of the cuff, and then I'm going to put this one to line the inside of the cuff. It's kind of the pink. They will play off on each other. You're going to need a tape measure, not a ruler because it has to go around the cuff so you can see exactly, how big it is. So a soft tape measure, a paintbrush, a nice thick one that you can use to put on the paper, the Mod Podge. We're going to need scissors to cut our paper, some tweezers to use for the crystals if you're going to put crystals on it. And the Mod Podge that I'm using today is gloss Mod Podge. They have several different types. You can use a matte finish or a crackle finish. I like to use the gloss finish, so that's what I've chosen to use today. Again, you can buy this at any craft store. And then you're going to need a sealer. Here's 2 brands that I use quite frequently. Again, I buy them both at Michael's, but any craft store will carry a form of sealer. Look for the acrylic sealer because it works really well with the Mod Podge coating on the paper. These do tend to be quite fumy, so make sure that when you're spraying them, you have good ventilation. So either one of these will work. And that's it. So have a look over the supplies. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is measure your bracelet, or your cuff that you're using, how long it is. And mine is 6.5 inches. So you're going to want to make the paper when you cut it to be 1 inch longer than the actual cuff. And you can see that my cuff is 2 inches wide. So I've taken and cut the outside of my paper to 7.5 inches and 3 inches wide. So basically you're just going to add 1 extra inch in length and 1 extra inch in width. And this is going to be the outside piece of paper. For the inside piece of paper, you're going to take off 1 inch, or half an inch, sorry. So my cuff is 6.5, it's now 5.5 for lengthwise. So you're taking off 1 inch, and then for the inside, I've only taken off 1/4 inch. So lengthwise on the inside piece of paper, you take off 1 inch, and you only take off 1/4 inch on the width. I'm going to go ahead and also write this in the instructions. So, but I mean, this is just the diameters I'm using. You can do whatever you want, whatever works best for you. So once you go ahead and measure out your pieces of paper, cut them out. I've already cut mine out and have them here. And then we're going to go ahead and apply them onto the bracelet. So get your Mod Podge, your whatever type you've chosen. Again, I'm using the gloss. It's really simple. First thing you do, I do anyways, is I just coat the bracelet. And it's like glue. Don't worry if you get it on your table or if you get it all over your hands. This stuff is, it dries, but it's water soluble, so it's not going to affect or damage any clothing or furniture or anything like that. Apply a nice liberal coat to the outside of the cuff. First I do that. It's lovely. And then I grab my paper, and I want to make sure that I try to get it pretty much centered. So I'll lay my paper down, I'll take my cuff, I'll put in what I think is the middle right here. Looks pretty good. It's kind of sloppy. And then I'll just hold my hand to the inside of the cuff, and then just push the paper up, and it's going to stick to it. Same here, push the paper up. Then when we get to the ends, fold the tip of the paper over, fold the tip of the paper over like that. press it down. This is just making sure that the paper is going to stick to the Mod Podge that we've put underneath. It's kind of the first thing that you do. Perfect. Now that I've pressed it down, I'm going to lift up the flaps a little bit here. As you can see, I'm going to put some Mod Podge on the inside of the cuff here. It's just a sealant, it's like a glue. It's fantastic. I'm going to bend these back over again. And wait for it to stick. Now, when the cuff is like this with the paper, I go through with my scissors and I snip little slits on the sides here. You're going to see why I do this. Switch it over to the other side. Go ahead and cut little snips, little slats in here. It makes it so when you're bending the paper over, a lot easier to take. All right, so the next step, we're going to bend over the sides of the paper. So just go ahead and apply some more of this Mod Podge. Really get in there. I like to put a lot in. It doesn't matter, you can't overdo it. This paper that you're using is quite thick. It's scrapbooking paper, so you can't damage or put too much on. And then just, once you've got it all covered, start bending it over. The corners can be a little bit hard. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. Bending it over. Corners. Pushing it all down. Bending it all over. Okay. And sometimes, you know, if the ends are too much, you can snip them down. You can take your scissors and cut off some of this paper. You can see I've got quite a chunky bit right here. If I don't like that, I'll just snip it off. Then I'll go ahead and apply some more Mod Podge over top of all this. It helps if you get it a little bit thick. You know, saturate the paper. Makes it more malleable. Is that the right word? Pliable? I'm not sure. But go through there again. Make sure you can feel the edges. I'm just going through, if you can see exactly what I'm doing. Pressing the edges down with my finger. Lots of Mod Podge in there. It's like a glue. And that's good. So you can see the outside I've applied. That's quite nice, right? Already you can see the cuff taking shape. So I'm just going to let this sit now that I've applied all my Mod Podge. It's really saturated. I just want to let it dry a bit. Then next we're going to just put a coat on the outside of this, but first I want to make sure that I've got it all sealed down, and then I'll come back in a couple minutes when the inside is dried and we'll continue. Okay, so I just waited a couple minutes, and the reason I did that is I want to make sure none of the edges are coming up, and it looks to be fine. I've put a little bit more Mod Podge right in the middle because I'm going to add the inside for the cuff. And this just basically covers up all the edges so you can't see anything. You can use the same type of paper if you want. Of course, I want something a little bit different. I like the way it looks, but you can use however you want. So go ahead and kind of bend it right in half so you can center it. You grab it, you put it right in the middle. Look up both sides, see how, sorry my hand's in the way. And then I just press it down with my fingers. Because I've pre-measured it, hopefully it'll work. I didn't put it in properly, so let me just pull it out again. I need to make sure I center it. Maybe a little bit tricky. Okay, I think I got it there. There we go. Perfect. So then we just press it down. It's going to attach to the Mod Podge underneath it. So you can see there what it looks like. Now that we've done this, you just slather the whole thing with this decoupage glue. So go ahead and cover the whole thing completely. And again, I just got some on my kitchen table, as you can see. Don't worry about it. It's water soluble, comes right off. And so I'm covering the whole inside, and then I'm going to cover the outside as well. Now, you do this about 3 or 4 times. So cover it, let it dry, come back to it, put another quick coat on it, let it dry, come back to it, do another quick coat. 3 or 4 times, because we really want to make sure that the paper is saturated. We want to make sure that it gets through, that it's sticking to the aluminum cuff underneath, and this helps us build up a nice base coat, so when people are wearing it, that it's, you know, it's not too fragile, it's not going to rip the paper underneath. So as you can see, it doesn't take too long to dry either, you know, maybe it takes an hour each time, so just, I do it like throughout the day, come back to it. But there we go, so you can see exactly what it's going to look like. I'm going to sit it. Okay, so you can see now that the bracelet is dry. It's kind of got a shiny finish to it. It's because I used the gloss Mod Podge. But here you can have a look. I did put 4 coats on it. This is what it looks like afterwards. I made sure to fill in all the edges where the corners are, give it a nice liberal thick coating for those areas, and then it just dries clear. You can tell when it's dry, but it doesn't really feel tacky anymore. So it's nice and smooth. You can see that it's doing fine. So what I'm going to do now is spray on the final coating of the sealer, and I use this because this is a water-soluble product, and this will just finish it off. And also, it kind of acts as a sticky glue when I go to add the crystals. So I put down some paper because this does, it will damage your kitchen table or your upholstery. So make sure you put down some paper, and also make sure you can't see I have my windows open for good ventilation. So I'm just going to go ahead and shake. And first I do the inside. I give it a nice coating. Just go in there and spray. Turn it around. Not too much. You try to keep it a couple inches away, but just give it a nice spray. Let that sit for a bit. I'm going to flip it over. Let it sit. And then spray the outside. You can see I'm going through here. This just seals it up so anybody can wear it. So it gets rained on. Gives it a final touch. More of a professional seal to it. So there, I think I've got a nice good coat on there. I don't want to put too much on because I don't want it to run or streaky. So try not to touch it too much. I'll lift it up just a little bit here because I don't want it to stick to the paper. I'll move it back a little bit. Just helps me. And then I'm going to take, while the sealing is still wet, I like to add my crystals. So I'll just go ahead and put a couple crystals on, press them down, and they're just going to stick right into that nice sealant because it's still moist and wet. So I just put those in there wherever I want a crystal to be. And I'm going to do that, put a couple more crystals on it, decorate it just how I see fit, squeeze them, put them in there, and I'll show you the final product when it's all done. Okay, so here you can see the final result. It's quite sparkly. I've added crystals. If you want to add more crystals and you find that the finish dries too fast, you can always apply extras using the E3000 glue I showed you in my tutorial on how to make a silk flower. So these make great gifts. People love them. And you can put whatever sort of paper you want on, so get creative and have fun. Make sure to check out next week my next craft project. Visit my blog, sparkleandgems@blogspot.com. Bye!